Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the On Podcast. I am very happy to say that we have with us Thiago Ávila, or as I know him as Thiago Silva. I met him once before in Turkey, but he was very shy at that time. But turns out he's not shy. He just takes time. And like he said, he doesn't like to monopolize conversations. Thiago is known for the Flotilla fame, but what you don't know is Thiago is also a vegan. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? Who would have figured out the Palestinian activist, who is also a climate activist, is a vegan? Thiago, welcome to Pakistan, the land of the carnivores. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Eman. I'm very glad to be here. I would like to send a big hug to every Pakistani who is watching us right now.
That's very sweet. Thank you so much. You and Greta, specifically in particular, captured the imagination of millions of people across the world. Uh, how did that feel? Is that weird to be? Because everywhere you go, you guys go, I know for a fact that people from all kinds of religions and ethnic backgrounds just they want to hug you, they want to meet you. How does that? Because you're a regular dude as well. I met you're a nice, sweet guy. But how does that feel? Just capturing the imagination of millions of people when it comes to Palestinian activism.
Aman is like a mixed feeling because in the end we're just average people, and it's not very pedagogical. The idea of thinking whenever people are talking about heroes and stuff like that, we try to misconstrue that to say no, we're actually everyday people who just made a decision to do something like you're doing, spreading true information and breaking the media blockade with important discussions and everything. I'm an activist for 21 years, and for
MashaAllah.
15 years, nobody cared at all about what I did
Right.
or about the message that I was trying to convey, like with our social work. So I always try to say that we don't really need heroes, and this is not very pedagogical to put people in that place, but we actually need everybody to work together and to mobilize. So I actually believe it's good. It's important when we look at the history of revolutions to have public figures, to have revolutionary leadership, even. But as long as that does not create like a delegation of tasks. So you do that, I'll be here in the back saying that you're doing a nice work and not feeling that is my responsibility as well. So as long as this does not happen, the separation between the people who are on the vanguard and everybody else who we want to be together side by side on the same struggle, I believe it's okay. And I've been doing that. I'm 39 years old now, and I've been doing that for 21 years. And I've seen a lot of people like creating a way to be known to the world in very bad ways and cutting corners and giving up on their values and principles. So I'm actually happy that Greta and so many people around the world, you can put me on that basket as well, people that caught the world's attention doing the right thing, not taking the shortcuts, not going to the easy path.
Right.
So I'm glad people are, the message is getting further. So we don't mind being in that situation, but we also don't idealize it and we don't get any illusions by it. Because to be honest, the process that Greta has been through, that when she was saying that humans are hitting the planet, the media loved her. And then she started to say, no, it's actually a system that's profiting from that. And the media started to back away from her. And then when she talked about the connection between genocide and ecocide and Palestine, they completely tried to erase her. So I have no illusion that vast majority of people who like the idea of people bringing food to starving children in Gaza, they actually don't want to build a better world free of exploitation, oppression, and destruction of nature, at least not yet. So I actually believe that so far, as long as they open their hearts for the core of the message, I'm okay by that. So I don't think that much of the media that we get, much of the media attention will like us in a few years or decades when they understand that we actually want to change the system, build a new society. But we try to do as best as we can with that.
आप लोगों की सपोर्ट की वजह से आज हम यहाँ पे हैं। आप लोगों की सपोर्ट की वजह से हम ये कंटेंट बनाते रहते हैं। आप लोगों की सपोर्ट हमें चाहे इनबॉक्स डीएम की मद में है, चाहे वो कमेंट की मद में है, या स्पेशली 3,000 रुपये की सब्सक्रिप्शन की मद में है, हमारे काम को बहुत आगे लेके जाती है। हमें किसी प्लेटफॉर्म की तरफ से कोई सपोर्ट नहीं है। आपके सामने हमारा चैनल डिमोनेटाइज हुआ है, एक दफ़ा नहीं 2 दफ़ा। उसकी वजूहत भी हमने आपको बताई हैं। डिमोनेटाइजेशन या फिर किसी की आवाज़ बंद कर देना बहुत गलत है, चाहे वो किसी भी इशू पे बात कर रहा हो। फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच के साथ खड़े हैं और हमें 3,000 रुपये की सब्सक्रिप्शन प्रोवाइड करें। हमने ऑलरेडी ज़्यादा कंटेंट प्रोड्यूस करना शुरू कर दिया अपने पेड सब्सक्राइबर्स के लिए, और हमारी इवेंचुअली कोशिश होगी कि जो हमारा आधा कंटेंट है वो पेड सब्सक्राइबर्स के लिए ही हो। तो ईऑन फैमिली का पार्ट बने, 3,000 रुपये दें, सब्सक्राइब करें।
It's really fascinating because a lot of environmental activists they end up with, realizing that the biggest pollutant or the biggest singular source for environmental destruction is a global international military industrial complex. That there is a military industry which produces small arms and drones and rockets and missiles, and that industry, I think, damages the environment the most. And a lot of environmental activists, if they're legit, like you guys, mashallah, you guys were serious about your environmental activism. That, back in the day, British Petroleum used to say, for example, the term carbon footprint was financed by British Petroleum because they want to individualize it. It's not individual. It's not me or Thiago or any of the brothers behind the camera. It's a system of corporations, of governments, and those individuals are probably responsible for it. We could individualize it to them, but they're like 1% of a percent of a percent of the global population. And it's really fascinating that you guys moved from that to the heart of the issue, which is Zionism, because most of the military conflicts that the West has engaged in the past 30, 40 years have been around Zionism. The last 70, 80 years, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, destabilizing Syria, any of these Middle Eastern, at least the Middle Eastern conflicts, have mostly been around Zionism. Walk us through your journey. You start off as an environmental activist in Brazil. Obviously, the rainforest is there. There's a lot of organized farming which feeds the American market for, cash crops and for these specialty products, like you mentioned, the acai berry. Uh, what motivates you to get into that, and how do you go from there to being on the flotilla? And not once, but twice. You've been on twice now.
Yes.
How do you do that for 21 years? Where do you go from?
Aman, I was 18 years old, and I was in Brazil when I was subject to this most colonial education like any Brazilian person. So I was educated to admire the US lifestyle and to think that was abundance, that was success, that was liberty at its peak. And I knew the neighborhoods of New York from the sitcoms, and I knew the rivers of Europe, and I knew nothing about Bolivia or Peru or Venezuela or Colombia, which were my neighbors. And I knew nothing about Latin American history, for example, but I could tell a lot about European history. And I knew nothing about Africa. I knew nothing about Asia. So it was very shocking when I was 18 years old. I got in touch. First of all, Latin America was living a very beautiful moment, an anti-colonial, anti-imperialistic moment, where they defeated the free trade agreement with the United States, the ALCA. So that was a moment where I saw our continent talking about different things, which I never heard of. So when I got in touch, I saw a movie in the theater about Che Guevara's travel through Latin America and said, oh, that's a beautiful thing. I would love to do something like that. And then early in January 2006, I went to do a similar trip, like to go
Across South America.
Yes, to go through Bolivia, Peru.
Did you go along the river?
Yeah, I did, but I was actually going not with a bike. I was going by hitchhiking and with backpacking.
Wow.
And then when I got to La Paz in early January 2006, the whole city was like celebrating, and I said, "What's going on here?" And I asked one of a very old indigenous lady, and she was very happy. And I said, "What's going on here?" And she said, "We won." And she was very enthusiastic about it. I said, "We won what?" And she said, we elected the first indigenous president after 500 years of the European invasion. And that was the taking of office of Evo Morales, the first indigenous president. And I said, that's amazing. I want to hear what's going on. And I went to hear his words. And Evo Morales was saying in January 2006 that Latin America needed to be free of neocolonialism, that could not be like being treated as a big mining field, as a big farm, as a big oil field, as a casino for financial speculation. And we could not be enslaved by debt from the IMF. We could not be subject to intervention, to military coups, to sabotage by the United States in their Monroe Doctrine. That we deserve to have the rights of nature preserved. We deserve to understand and to respect the people, the many indigenous people on its nations. And he said a concept that really was like a hammer in my head. He said that happiness and abundance would not come from accumulating material goods and competing with people. He said that it would come from understanding the way of living of every community in their culture, in their religion, in their integration with nature as part of nature, not apart from it. And this could all be synthesized in the well-being, which by the indigenous culture there, the Aymara culture, was called Suma Kamanya, which is the Suma is the fulfillment, and Kamanya was life. So living life at its fullest that you achieve by being integrated with your biome and nature, integrated with your community, and understand your part in this world as a subject of integration and change. So that was a beautiful thing to hear. And that came, of course.
That is very sweet and beautiful, yeah.
Yes, it is. And then I said, I would love to dedicate my life to something like this. And then I started researching.
Was that like a spiritual, religious experience for you?
It was. In a way, I say that at that moment I understood my big purpose in life. So I totally separate that I live my childhood, my youth, and then I understood what I was here for. And I never felt better, and I never did anything other than that ever since. Everything that I did was to go on this purpose, to be a small ant to help to promote a world without exploitation, oppression, and destruction of nature. And that brought me to anti-capitalism, and that brought me closer to indigenous movement, to campesino communities, to housing movement, to social justice movement in the cities, in the slums, in the favelas. And that brought me to anti-imperialism in an international scale. So brought me to fight against the U.S. blockade in Cuba, brought me to fight in solidarity with Palestine. So it was all very instinctive. We were also colonized in Brazil, and Palestine lives 8 decades of genocide and ethnic cleansing as apartheid colonial state. And different than what I thought, it was not a religious war or a place that has always been in war with no solution. It was actually a racist and supremacist ideology that was trying to make us believe all these lies. So when I understood that, it was like something that I said, I would like to do anything that I could to be in solidarity with these people. And in 2006 was very shocking because I was finally understand how the world works. And Israel was attacking Lebanon and destroying Palestine in 2006. And was actually implementing the last stages of putting Gaza under siege. And when I saw this process from 2005, when they removed their colonies from within Gaza in Ariel Sharon's reallocation plan, 2006, when they escalated the genocide over Gaza, in 2007, when they closed everything by land, sea, and air, I said, I cannot believe how come the world is not doing anything. They're creating a concentration camp in Gaza. Right. And I had no idea. I would never believe if somebody said that this siege would last 18 years. And then I saw the first attempts to break the siege. The first boats who went with flotilla in 2010, the big flotilla, which I applied. I was 23 years old, man, and I applied to join there by email. Internet was totally different by then. I saw in the Portuguese Communist Party website that they were having this flotilla, and then I applied by email, and they said, you can join, but you have to pay for your own tickets. And for a young man from the Global South, that is almost like saying you cannot go. Yeah. And then I was so sad that I could not join. And then I was so shocked because that mission in 2010 was attacked and they killed 10 people in the Marvi Marmara.
One of Pakistani, on Marvi Marmara, a Pakistani, very prominent Pakistani journalist was there and he got injured.
Yes. 60 people got injured. They killed 10, but 60 got injured.
I met him. I was in school at that time. Again, I'm about your age, and he came to our school, and that was also a seminal point for me in life. He came and talked about the Marvi Marmara Talat. I don't know if you know him, but he's in Islamabad right now. He lives in Islamabad. But yeah, he came back and he talked about it, and that sort of made a mental note in my mind that you can just get up and you can go and break the blockade. And there's a blockade. Like, first of all, there's a blockade. Yeah, it's very strange. 18 years on. this was just like us. So because you had already understood the exploitation, the neo-colonial project in Palestine, you'd already understood what the Zionist entity was. It was just time this time around that when the new flotillas with the new, renewed hope when they were going around, and now because you were a prominent, environmental and indigenous activist, it was inevitable that you would get onto the flotilla. This is not right. This is 20 years in the making, basically. Yes. 21 years. How are both experiences? How was the previous one and how is this one different? Are they gradually increasing? Because people have this assumption. People in Pakistan are very cynical about environmental and social activism. They don't find it to be very effective. They get very depressed very quickly. We're very emotional people. We want to do something in the morning, and then by the evening that it should be done.
That's what neoliberalism tells us.
Yeah,
right?
That's what it is. Yeah, it's fast consumption basically.
Yes. And they say that is a waste of time, and that we should be doing is competing against our brothers, accumulating material goods. That's the only way to be happy.
One of the most prominent arguments for boycott, for example, in Pakistan, anti-boycott arguments, which is like, oh, what's the point? We need to compete in economics and we need to compete in science and technology. That there's no point in boycotting these products and there's no point in protesting. And that's one of the main arguments that you get in Pakistan. So for people who might get very depressed by, nothing, it's not that they're evil people, by the way. They're caught in the sort of neoliberal, I think you framed it really well. They're caught in the materialist, infinite consumption, infinite growth sort of bullshit trap. Mentally, they're caught in it. And they're good people, many of them. And I think a lot of the anger that comes out of them is because they are unable to do anything about Palestine. So that makes them sort of, self-guilty and self-hatred. And so then they're projected as like, oh, what's the point of boycotting or protesting anyways? So you went, and first time around, how many boats were there when you went the first time?
I'm on the process of the Medellin mission. It came as a result of many attempted and failed missions before.
Right.
So that I became an organizer of the Freedom Flotilla coalition when the genocide had already escalated after October 2023. And before, the flotilla was just something that I admired, but I didn't have the connections. I've been to Palestine before. I do a lot of solidarity work for many, many years. I'm doing political education courses.
You've been to the West Bank or you've been to Gaza?
Yes, I've been to I tried to get to Gaza from all the directions, never been allowed in by land or by sea. Next time I have to go with a parachute, so maybe. But I've been to the occupied West Bank. I've been to the territories occupied in 1948 as well.
Right.
I've been through those horrible checkpoints. I've been through I've seen these colonies from afar. I've seen settler violence, and I've seen what an apartheid state really is. I've been to the refugee camps when they had the night raids, the Israeli night raids to kidnap or assassinate people. That's very, very bad. I've been to other places as well where Zionism creates a lot of damage. I've been to Lebanon during the bombings October last year. So I've seen the damage that Zionism can do. But when I started organizing with the flotilla, I actually was very concerned because of the escalation of genocide, and I knew there was a new moment because people were rising up all around the world. And so we had the capacity to do something different, something bigger. But the problem is that also our enemies were so strong trying to stop the global uprising, stop the demonstrations, stop the boycott, criminalizing people. So when we tried the first mission after the escalation of genocide, it was an emergency mission with 3 large vessels. Would have more than 1,000 people, more than 5,500 tons of aid coming from Istanbul in April 2024. But this mission was stopped by what we call the bureaucratic warfare that they do against our missions. So we were supposed to depart from Istanbul. We were there preparing everything, and everybody was ready with their backpacks ready to departure the next day. And then the pressure from the Israeli lobby got the country that gave us the flag for our boat to sail in international waters, which was Guinea-Bissau. They canceled the flag of the boats. And then
you can't sail without a flag.
Yeah, without a flag, you lose the insurance. Without a flag, you don't get the port exit authorization. And so it was so frustrating because we had 1,000 people from more than 30 countries and a whole cargo ship of life-saving aid to get to Gaza. More aid than we could ever gather before. So it was so frustrating to know that, just like the trucks that have been to the Sinai desert, they would rot.
Yeah, in Islam we say innamal a'malu binniyat, which means that surely the value of the actions is judged by the intentions. So all of the people who went there, they brought the aid. They had intended to be ready to die.
Yes.
To go into Palestine. So if it happened that way, that Israel engaged in bureaucratic warfare, those people will still be. They're still great people.
Yes, they are.
They're great people.
And we actually learned from that. So then we
Exactly.
said next time we had a small boat called the Handala that we were going from port to port. And then we said, let's take this boat to Gaza. And we were there visiting port to port in the Mediterranean. It came from Oslo, from Norway, and was circling around Europe. And then it entered the Mediterranean, port to port, doing grassroots work. And then when we were close to Malta, the boat simply had a catastrophic failure in the engine and we could not get to Gaza. And so we stopped the Handala there. We took it to Augusta, to Sicily, and we failed again. And I was so frustrated by that. And then we went home and we said, and then the sailing season was over, because in the Mediterranean, with the small old boats that we have, we need to mind the sailing season because it's not.
Which is spring to summer.
Yes, from April to September, basically.
Maximum, yeah.
Yes, otherwise you're risking getting into storms, and we don't want to
kill people, yeah.
Yes, to
That's
kill
not the
people.
point.
Imagine that we are going there to break the siege. Imagine something happened that we need to be rescued by
Exactly.
a U.S. vessel, for example. We don't want that at all. So then we failed with the Handala and we prepared for the next year. The next year, we managed to have one boat, a very big boat of 160 people, the Conscience. But this time we would do different. We will prepare a secret mission, a confidential mission, where we will train and prepare all of our team in a different country, and the boat will be in another country. We would just meet at the day of departure, and the boat would never even get inside the country, not to be defeated by bureaucratic warfare. So we'll be in the international waters where nobody could stop us. So then we were trying to do just that. We took all of our people to Malta. That's when Greta came for the first time, for the first mission. And we were training all of our people in nonviolent direct action. Everything is secret. So we would take down our kefiyas. Whenever people were asking, we were just an NGO. And then we trained everybody the day before. Once again, the day before we get into the boat, they canceled the flag of the boat and the insurance of the boat when the boat was in international waters. And so we knew there was something complicated. And then the Maltese government, the boat was in Tunisia on the way to Malta, and we were preparing people in Malta. They canceled the flag the night before, and then the Maltese government said, you cannot go to the boat. We will not give you authorization to go. And then we said, we're going anyway. We'll just get any boat and we'll go. And then we'll be in international waters. We don't care. And then we were preparing everything to go. And then the Zionists understood that they would not stop us through bureaucratic warfare this time, because we were smart. We put the boat in international waters. It would simply take any boat and go. Without immigration, to be honest, we really didn't care. We would not stop being in solidarity against a genocide by any formal problems.
Yeah,
like
why
that.
would you?
It doesn't care.
We don't respect that anymore, no.
We are risking our lives. How come we're not going to risk a bureaucratic problem? So we were preparing to go, and 6 hours before we go, the Zionists that had tried to stop us in any way through bureaucracy, they could not. They bombed our boat. So they bombed the Conscience in Malta. Yes, and by miracle.
What was the munition they used? Some kind of small drone weapon?
This time they used two drones, but they had a very strong explosive character.
High caliber, yeah.
Yes. So the first bomb, they pierced the hole. The hole of the Conscience was very thick, steel hole. And so they pierced the hole, and the second bomb came right inside the bow of the ship and destroyed the entire electrical system up front.
And this is, on the media at the same time, what Zionist media was reporting? That there were flares.
Yes. They were saying anything.
Yes.
And then we were trying to get to our boat to rescue our team and to do all of those things. And Greta was with me, and the Coast Guard would not allow us to get to our boat, would not allow our team to get into Malta to be rescued. It was such a mess, and the world would not even understand, like you said, Aman. And when we failed that, we said, oh my God, they can do anything. They can bomb in European waters between Malta and Italy, and the European Union didn't do anything. Not even said they were against. Not even made a statement against that. On the contrary, they were trying to criminalize us.
They have a very strong base in Malta. They're very set up in Malta.
Yes.
Very much so. They bought a lot of real estate there as well.
Yes. So we failed again that time in May this year. And then we said, we need to continue going. We cannot stop. And then we said, our boat that broke last year, the Handala, is still not ready, but we have a very small boat called the Madeline. Only fits 12 people.
Right.
And then we're saying that's going to be a very dangerous mission, because to go with 12 people, if they just bomb the boat with 164 people, it will be very dangerous. So we need to go very strong. And we talked to Greta, to all of our comrades, our friends, and they all said, let's do that. And then when we decided to go, we were saying that is gonna be something impactful, because the risk was so great. They just bombed our boats, and 2 months later we were sailing from
I think
Italy.
left a very big impression globally on people's minds. That visual of you guys with Greta hanging off the that's a very iconic sort of visual that people were like, what's going on? Why are like little kids and men and women, why are they, what's going on? I think since the Madeleine to the Samud, European activism has like gone way up, because they saw, people like Tag and everybody, they came on later, because I think the Madeleine had a very strong visuals. Like you said in the start that, we don't want to be heroes. It's not pedagogical. It's not smart. It's not a good way to operate, because then you separate a certain class. These are the leaders, these are the heroes, and then everybody else is the vanguard, and they do the. But these visuals, these hero characters, these figureheads, they matter to people a lot. And I think you guys, that visual stuck in people's head, where they were like, what's going on? And I met you after just like you shook my hand, and there was like, I think there was 30 or 40 people waiting in line to shake your hand. And that was a big deal. Not to like massage your ego or whatever, but it does have an impact on people. Why have 12 people from Europe or from Latin America or from wherever decided that they're going to risk their lives to break the flotilla? Common humanity, which is a very big deal. Yes. I think it's a big lesson.
Yes, and it shows political imagination. Like,
yes.
In a way, neoliberalism, when it goes into your mind, you feel like you don't have power to do anything. No. It's a waste of time. It doesn't make sense. That's not where you should put your energy. But also the idea that you can really do more. You can do more for a cause that is not your own in a basic sense. Yeah. And so we raised the bar a little bit of the possibilities. And then people, in our opinion, what happened is that people got more creative and got bolder, like willing to do more.
At the time, you're right, the political imagination of the average individual, the horizon is expanded to much greater than what they think. There is a sort of nihilism in consumption culture where you get very, blindsided, and there's only one track that you can go on. If I quit my job, then this will happen. If I don't pay the rent, then that will happen, and everything will collapse, and blah, 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 and my mortgage, and this, that, and the other. But walk us through for a minute, like when you guys, on the Madeleine, at least from what I remember, when you guys were captured, it was a bit more, they were still fresh. The Israelis didn't know exactly what to do. Also, they were very careful and tactile not to hurt anyone, and they got those visuals of them giving you guys, I think, buns, like hummus buns or some chocolate buns or something, and they really tried to, I think they focused all of their propaganda and energy on Greta at that time. They wanted to embarrass her, they wanted to show her as a petulant child, and she doesn't know what she's doing, and Israel, is such a benevolent master, and we gave her a bun, and then we gave her a ticket back home. That was the visuals that they were trying to put out. Because they were trying to stamp out the visuals of 12 young people basically breaking the political mold that we have in our minds. Yes. That image was being pushed aside. How did you actually find the Israelis first time? You got scabies the first time.
I did.
Which is insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was actually
you and I wouldn't get scabies in the global south.
Yes.
But in Pakistan or in Brazil, but you could get scabies in an Israeli prison.
In a colonial prison. Yeah. That's something that really was shocking, Eman, because all the other missions, so right now in 2025, we've been through 17 years of attempt to break the siege of an 18-year-long siege in Gaza. All the other 37 boats that tried to do this crossing, they have been either stopped by bureaucratic warfare, they have been attacked, or they have been intercepted. And when we go with the Medellin, we face a different situation that all the other boats, Netanyahu would go into TV and say they are radicals, insurgents, and terrorists
Hamas and this-
bringing weapons to attack Israel. They would say that all the time. But it was kind of hard to pull this up with Greta and the frog hat and the socio-environmentalist with the guitar. So they failed miserably by saying that. And then they changed their strategy. They tried to say it's a selfie boat
yard,
of egoistic people that wants to show off and get fame and stuff like that. But they failed on that as well because people understood and they were asking the right questions and they were in solidarity with Palestine. Like you said, flotilla mission is very pedagogical because people ask the right question. Why are civilians doing that, not governments?
Yes.
Why are they going by sea, not by land? What happens with the borders?
Why can't they go from Egypt? Yeah.
Yes. How come they are arresting people trying to bring food to starving children in Gaza? So it's very pedagogical. It puts them in a very hard position. Like most non-violent tactics in the history of anti-colonial struggle, they put the oppressive force in a very hard position because imagine that. If Zionism allowed the flotilla to get to Gaza and take the aid, the Palestinian people have conquered a right to access food, right to control their own borders, to receive whoever they want to receive in their own country. Because despite the fact that they want to colonize that land, that is Palestinian territorial waters, not Israeli territorial waters.
No.
So if they allow us to go, the Palestinians have conquered a right. And we go right back with more boats and increasing until the siege is completely off.
Yeah.
But so it's not good for the Zionists who want to colonize and cleanse that land. But if they stop us, they show their true colors, their cruelty. So colonialism has faced that in every country when people use nonviolent methods like that. There's no real win for them. If they stop us, they are cruel. They lose morale. They lose public support. If they don't stop us,
they want a violent enemy. They don't want the non-violent.
Yes. So eventually we saw that in the civil rights movement in the US with Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and a lot of people. We saw that in the independence of India with Gandhi and Satyagraha, with all the contradictions and stuff. Actually, the oppressive force, they think they are in control, but they're not. We were a small boat of 12 people, very aware of what we were doing, very aware of the risks that we were taking as well, but knowing that there could be no victory for the Zionist regime. Because if they stopped us, they would show who they are, and that we were trying to tell everyone who they were, and maybe people would believe and understand we got stopped. That's exactly what happened.
But
if they don't stop...
I just a cynical point here. Like everybody knows what they are now. Like why? There's a thing that people ask me a lot was like, why would you risk your life, or why would somebody risk their life? What's the point? People already know what they are. They know that they're a violent entity, very exploitative. But it's quite clear that Western governments are bought and paid for, or lobbied, or it's an interdependent system, so that they won't question it. What is the point of keep hammering the same point again and again, which is they are a violent entity, they are an exploitative entity, they kill innocent people, they abduct innocent people, so on and so forth. Like, what's the point of you? Because when you went there, they obviously were rough with you guys, they put you in prison, they tried to abuse your rights, they tried to make you sign deportation documents, they beat some of the people. What is the point of doing that risk? People already know. Enough people know what the hell Israel is now? Like, is it to pressure your governments?
Aman, the flotilla missions, they have multi-purpose goals.
Yeah.
Because when we look, for example, at the situation of the Medellin, in a planet of 8 billion people, that mission was known by billions of people. People were aware that was happening. And that put Palestine again in the spotlight, which they were trying to cover it again. So that was very helpful for that. Just that would justify the risk we took and the mission that we made. But not only that, that also put pressure in all the governments to break their complicity and encourage the social movements to do occupation, to do strikes, to continue and intensify the boycotting campaigns.
Right.
So it had an effect on the global uprising as well. Because the whole world has been trying to break complicity of our own governments with genocide, but we have the difficulty to organize a global day of action, for example, a global day of strike, of demonstration. But when a flotilla is intercepted, the whole world went to the streets again. So it was beautiful to see that helped to facilitate this global process. In a way that Trump had to admit when he gave up on his idea of complete ethnic cleansing of Gaza, because that's what he was saying like 3 months before the ceasefire deal, he said that I had to tell Netanyahu over the phone that he cannot defeat the whole world by himself.
No.
So he's admitting that the whole world was against Israel. When we hear Giorgia Meloni, which is a Netanyahu ally, the Prime Minister of Italy, she was saying that she felt suffocated by so many demonstrations, by so much social mobilization for Palestine, which is something that sometimes they don't acknowledge. They try to maintain their idea that they are untouchable, that we are beneath it.
So the flotilla is as much about Palestine as it is about the global freedom struggle against capitalist sort of imperialist structures, because what I have noticed is that globally all humans support Palestine, but all the governments work with or are subordinate to Israel. And it's that dichotomy that is at display, people's ability to exercise their freedom, to have housing rights, to have health care, to not be forced into a war, to not be complicit in a genocide, to not have exploitative taxation laws, or whatever the particular case might be. It ends up being tied up with Palestine because it is the last sort of imperial colony right there in the Middle East. And all the states, especially in the global north, they're supporting it. So I get it. Like the Madeleine, you're right. The Madeleine, things aren't the same before as the Madeleine. Yes. I mean, before the Madeleine, it was going down, and the Palestinian interest was going down, and then I think online traction as well was going down, and then maybe Israel thought it could get away with it, but the Madeleine sort of broke the cultural scene because it's a cultural phenomenon.
Yes,
like you said, billions of people. I said millions, but you're right. Billions of, even more than the Samud, I think billions of people were aware of the Madeleine. Yes. Because the visuals at that time, it made the global news and entertainment shows, and even if they were making fun of it.
Yes.
Even if they were trying to propagandize against it, it was still in the mainstream.
Aman, you have no idea how many people send me messages like, I received a video from a friend. He was asking me to make fun of you, to ridicularize you. But then I started listening to what you have to say, and I've just been to my first demonstration pro-Palestine.
Really?
So it's beautiful to see. Like when we discuss these things, we open the way for people to get in touch with that.
In the case of the Samud, do you think it had that big of an impact?
I actually believe that the Madeleine had the idea to open the imagination of people that we can speak truth to power, and we can do bold actions, we can do direct action, and we should do that. I believe it was beautiful, but it was less grassroots based, less scale. Organized. Yes, a small scale organization for a very big impact mission. The Global Smooth Flotilla was a different intentional work of a coalition of coalitions. So in my opinion, I love the Madeleine. The Madeleine will always be in my heart.
Yeah.
But I want to change the world. So in order to change the world, we need to organize ourselves.
With all the people of the world,
yeah. So the Global Smooth Flotilla has a very special place because when we were on the Madeleine, we were in contact with our brothers and sisters who were marching by land from the Maghreb, from North Africa, to try to get to Gaza by land in the Sumud convoy. And we were in contact with our brothers and sisters who were buying tickets to get to Cairo through the airport, and then go to Rafah, to go to Al Arish port, and then to march to Gaza from Al Arish to Rafah. So we were trying to go by sea, they were trying to go by land, the others trying to go by air, and we were saying that we're doing all of that together. So we knew that we had the potentiality to do a bit more. And those two organizations, they were very dedicated to do their grassroots mobilization in their countries, to create a social movement idea of organizing, which in the way, it's my opinion that how we should move forward with that. So we were organizing with an international organization of coordination between these three initiatives. When we got arrested, in prison, and then released, we met with everybody else who also got arrested in Egypt and who also got arrested in Libya trying to go by land.
Physically, yeah.
And then we decided, let's do an action together. And then we decided to do this. We merged the Freedom Flotilla coalition activists who were there. So the flotilla word comes from that. The Sumud convoy. So the Sumud word comes from this convoy who was trying to go by land. And the March to Gaza, global March to Gaza was coming by air. And so we got the global Sumud flotilla. One word from each, the biggest effort ever attempted. So, Aman, imagine that. For 17 years, we had 37 boats attempting to do this journey. And the Global Sumud Flotilla, in a single mission, we had more boats than all the other boats combined. Right. More people than all the other people combined who ever tried to do this crossing. This means a lot. And that has shown the world that we can organize to have a bigger impact. So I believe there's no comparison. The Medellin captured people's heart because of the fragility of that boat, because of the courage of the people who were going, because of the message that you can speak truth to power. But the Global Sumud Flotilla said, we can go with a global uprising and we can be victorious. Because when we say that 17 years, we never had any country support for our mission. And in the Global Sumud Flotilla, in the first week, we had 16 countries signing statements in support of the flotilla, saying that if Israel intercepted us, they would take measures against it. And then Israel attacked us many times with incendiary drones. And then in a single night, when we were crossing from Italy to Greece, they attacked us 14 times with explosive devices and also chemical devices. 11 explosions on our boats trying to destroy the masts, the sails. And then after that, we had for the first time, a government sending a military vessel to accompany us from Italy, from a right-wing government, allied of Israel, but afraid of its people. And then the Spanish state had to move as well to say that they're not abandoning their citizens as well. So they sent another military vessel. And then the Turks, they said, we have our drones supporting you. We have our vessels nearby you as well. So we created a wave that we really could not imagine because we never had anything like that. It was us against the world, against the governments of the world. We always say, we had a team, we'll say, when governments fail, we sail. And this time, the social mobilization was so big that it was pushing the governments towards us, and that never happened.
That's a very deep way of looking at it, man, because more often than not, activist types are not very strategic thinkers, no offense. But, they're a bit more hippy-dippy, sort of emotional and, going with the flow. This is genuinely strategic. Like, the fact that this is a point that people tend to forget, that even though Italy had its nefarious designs, the fact that it had to mobilize their navy, the fact that Spain had to mobilize their navy, the fact that Turkey had to mobilize their drones, that was genuinely insane. I genuinely thought that, and the fact that people got so close this time around, this is the closest that they've gotten to the beaches of Gaza. You've just set a precedent now, because like you said, it's not sailing season right now. Come February or March, it's going to start to be sailing season soon again. And you went with 80 boats this time?
42 boats. 462 people.
462 people. But now you could show up with hundreds of boats.
Yes.
And that would mean, did you think that compared to the Medellin, the Israelis were more panicked when they caught you? Like, I felt like they were more erratic when they were catching you guys. Yes. In the Medellin, they were a bit more, I wouldn't say calm, because they're never calm. They're always shouting. Yes. But they're a bit more relaxed because they thought maybe it's just 12 kids or whatever. This time they were genuinely panicked in the videos that came out, and it felt like they didn't have the situation under control. And I've interviewed the two Pakistanis who were there, and they said they were genuinely panicked. Like, they didn't know what to do with us. It was like they were confused as well.
Yes.
Did they recognize you?
Yes.
They know you?
Yes.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, for me, it was not the best when I was in prison.
They were rude to you.
But it's good to know that they are aware.
When recently a Muslim journalist called Sami Hamdi, he is a journalist and activist, got arrested in America illegally. He was kept by ICE for 2 weeks. He said that half the guards had sympathetic eyes and they would be very shy and they would apologize. Half of them were racist and rude and they were obnoxious. but half of them were like, listen, it's not our fault. We're just doing our job. Was there anything like that in Israel? Was there guards who had some sense of humanity and they were ashamed and they were sort of awkward? Or was it just like the ones that we see on TikTok and Instagram, like the real crazy Zionists?
There were in both situations that were different types of guards. But just to get back, Aman, to the thing that you were saying about the interception and how did they behave compared one time to the other. Because on the Medellin, every mission we go through this stair of acknowledgement and awareness of the world. When we launch a mission, nobody knows about it. So what the Israelis want to do with us is to bomb and kill us like they do to Palestinians. And if we don't get enough reach, and if we don't raise the political cost of bombing us, that's exactly what they will do. Exactly. So that's why we'll never do a secret mission again like we did in Malta, because they benefit from that. They bombed our boat because we were secret.
But if there's visuals and cameras and viewership and thousands of people online, exactly.
That's a huge protection from us.
By the way, which I was thinking the last time when the flotilla was going, you guys need to invest. And I'm sure people in Pakistan are willing to finance this, inshallah. Here's like a challenge to Pakistanis that you guys need to have a very robust internet and live streaming system on these things.
Yes,
that's expensive to set up, but that is because right now it's just one camera, very, very, very like poor angle, very low resolution. But even then, you caught a lot of the espionage and a lot of the sabotage that the Israeli drones were doing. Imagine if you had like actual full live stream setups. So you're right, so no more secret missions.
Yes. So in the end, if we don't raise the political cost, they will bomb us and kill us. They start a mission by saying this, always the same thing. Terrorists bringing weapons to attack Israel. Once we break this through the media battle, through the social media battle, information battle, they start to say that we are selfish people, want to show off, and they try to take away our credibility.
Yeah.
So until we do these stairs, we are risking a lot. So in the Medellin, very quickly, we risked the situation that they could not kill us, but they would still intercept us. And the Global Smooth Flotilla, it took longer because they would say, because now we had a much better social composition. So we had a lot more Arabic countries, for example. So they would
a lot of languages,
Yes, and because they are so racist, they would use, they have Tunisians, they have Turkish people, they have Pakistani people, and they will use it against them. We're actually very proud of that we have on the world. And so we have this situation that until we break this line where they cannot bomb us, we are in a very risky mission. So the same thing about the behavior in the Zionist prison. Until we broke completely this idea that tried to frame us as terrorists, we are going through a lot of danger. So in the mission that when they bombed us and we kept on going and we didn't stop and we continue saying that we are nonviolent, and we got the attention of the world in the Global Smooth Flotilla as well. When that moment came, they stopped attacking us. They would put their drones all around us, but they would not attack because we crossed the line where the political cost was too high for them to simply kill us and bomb us. So they had to intercept us. We were thinking about the day, Aman, that will be so big, the political cost would be so huge that you will see hell on earth, a global uprising that would destabilize all his relations with other countries, but they cannot even intercept us, where the political cost of intercepting us will be bigger than the political cost of not getting in our way to get to Gaza.
Right.
That's where we want to get. But the problem is that in both missions, they still thought that the political cost of intercepting was better to pay than to let us through. Yeah. And then they put us in prison. And the first mission, they put all 12 of us, they got us to port. But then out of 12, 4 of us, we decided that 4 of our team would sign the documents to a voluntary deportation to go home first to spread the message. So Greta was the strongest voice we had. And Greta actually wanted to stay with us. She was concerned about what happened to me and our friends because I was the one negotiating with the soldiers and everything. So she was concerned about me, about Yasmin, about Schweib, about a lot of people. But then we said, Greta, we don't know if anybody else goes out of this prison. We don't know if the world will hear. Yeah. If you go, the world will hear. And then she accepted to go. And when she went, she did a very good job. And then they took all the other 8 people to the Givon prison in occupied Palestine, in Israel. And then out of that, they took me and Rima Hassan to solitary confinement by different reasons. Rima, because she was writing Free Palestine in the wall of the prison, and then she was taken there for 6 hours. And me, because I was the organizer of the mission, and also because I was doing a hunger and thirst strike in prison. And they said that is a disciplinary offense, and they would take me there until I decided to eat and drink water. And I said, I'm not going to eat and drink water until I'm out of here. And then I stood there for 2 days. And that's where I got scabies, and these prisons
in the solitary confinement place.
Yes,
They
because
had very poor mattresses or whatever.
Yeah, there were no mattresses there.
Cloth,
in in Givon prison, there were mattresses, there was water and everything. But in Ayalon prison, which was actually a torture camp, that much worse. Then there were rats and just a hole in the ground, and you could not differentiate day from night, and it's a much worse place. And then this next mission, they took all of us to Kitziot prison in the Negev desert.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't differentiate people who signed a document for voluntary deportation. They took everyone, because at that moment they were having a political struggle in the Zionist regime that Itamar Ben Gvir wanted to push for harsher treatment.
And he wanted to do the visuals. Yeah, he came.
Yes.
Did you see him?
Yes, I did. But at the moment when he was there to make these videos, I was having my head pushed to the floor, like me and Greta on the other side of the port. They separated us. And we didn't manage to be there at that moment. But I saw him passing a few
You
times.
didn't miss anything. Have you been to Spain?
Yes.
Have you seen Hamon Iberico? That's it.
Yes.
You didn't miss anything.
That is so embarrassing to see a war criminal trying to do this little show and failing so miserably with that.
And what an awkward guy, by the way. His shirts are always like all over the place.
Yes.
What a weird character.
Yes.
What a strange
hateful person.
Very strange, disgusting man. Yeah.
We'll see him in The Hague eventually. We'll see him
Inshallah.
behind bars.
Inshallah. Yes. I think I used to be cynical about this stuff, but I think that in our lifetimes, I think this stuff will go to The Hague, will go into the international community. I think the tide is turning.
Yes.
I asked you earlier, and not because I'm very sympathetic to the Israelis or anything. I'm just saying, did you see any like young people? Because young people everywhere are just young people, right?
Yes.
Did they have some self-awareness? Were they on the internet? Did they realize who you guys were and what they were doing? Like that funny sort of joke, are we the bad guys?
Yes,
did any of them have that sense of at least youth?
Yes, I've seen both times. First of all, the boat that we got intercepted was the same unit that intercepted all the other flotillas. It was the Shayatet 13, the S-13 unit, elite unit from the Zionist Navy. And their soldiers, they're highly trained, a lot of war criminals. They've been assassinating people in Gaza. They were the ones who first raided the Al-Shifa hospital and killed doctors and killed baby in incubators and all these things. So they are war criminals. But when they got to the interception with us, at the end, when we were leaving to port in the first mission, the captain of that mission, the commander of the interception of our boat, he said, "Thiago, I have to tell you something. I really respect you." Because he was saying that because we never treated them badly. We never lacked respect. We never said anything about them. We were there for the cause. So they are the blue-collar part of the machine, the destruction machine. They were brainwashed as well.
They're just people,
Yes. They're not Netanyahu. They're not Yoav Galan, Tamar Ben Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, Israel Katz. They're not the ones who make the decision. They're just cannon fodder. They're actually mentally unstable. Many of them under substances to be able to be war criminals for so long.
A lot of them take drugs.
A lot of them. That's why we train our people so hard not to be subject to incidental killing, because
not to irritate
they don't
them.
Have the order to kill us in an interception.
But not to irritate them. Because they're trigger happy.
Yes. We need to de-escalate the situation. But also in prison was amazing, because in prison when we were there, many of them were Zionists and they were very violent as well, but there was the ones that were not. And the ones that were not were the ones that were there because it was the only way of surviving. The only job that they had. It was the job that nobody wanted, to be, for example, in the prison in the middle of the desert. So there was a lot of young, non-white people, a lot of Arabic people.
Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, when
the lesser Jews,
Yes. When I was there in prison in solitary confinement, and the Palestinians that were beside me at the hall, I never saw them, but I could talk to them. We were talking about the world and everything. There was this one that was not Palestinian, and that he said he was from Ethiopia. And then I said, yes, you're from Addis Ababa. And then he got very happy to say, you know the capital of my country. I said, of course. The important country, and has a beautiful history of resisting colonization. And then this guard that came, a guard that was never hostile to me, in solitary confinement, he came to me and said, Thiago, thank you so much for knowing the history of my country. I come from Ethiopia as well, and I'm a Jew, but I'm treated as
Ethiopian Jews
a low category citizen here.
Yeah.
And he said, look what he said, Aman. He said, I know you're not eating, but I can bring you food without anybody knowing. I said, no, thank you so much, my brother. And then he insisted. He ordered food there, and he brought me tea, brought a lot of things. And I said, no, thank you so much, my brother. I could not accept that because of the hunger strike.
Great people, the Ethiopian people. Great people. They're sweet, kind people, but they've been caught up in the Zionist project. You know, they are a historically very anti-colonial people, and then they've got caught up in this... in this very terrible business. Like you said, that's what I wanted to find out, because I had this, unfortunately, due to the 2.5 years, I developed this sort of coldness where I started to think, all Israelis are like,
they are not.
But they are not.
No.
They are also people.
It has a huge effect, 8 decades of colonial education. So create this terrible things like...
It's like cosmopolitan ISIS. Like they're like a crazy, religious... they're like ISIS, but more cosmopolitan. They have more cafes and...
Yes. I believe in critic pedagogy that comes from Paulo Freire from Brazil, that says that once we are liberating minds, we can liberate even the people who are reproducing oppression everywhere.
Wow.
So these soldiers, they need to be liberated as well. Sometimes the way to liberate will be to completely stop them from being able to do harm. But if we change society, they will benefit as well. We're not doing this against the soldiers.
That's a very kind sentiment. Although I wouldn't say that most of the world would be sympathetic in the least bit to Israelis right now. But it's a very kind sentiment to have, to understand that they're also human beings who are stuck in a... Which is, in fact, illustrative of what you guys actually want, is that you're not against Jews or against, certain people or ethnic group. It is against a project. It is against a system which is exploitative. And like you said, it's also self-exploitative. Those young people in the Israeli prisons were cannon fodder. Yes. They are there to torture on behalf of Ben Gvir and Netanyahu. Netanyahu's son should come and torture them. Yes. If you want to torture the people of the Madeleine and the Samud, Netanyahu's son, Yair Netanyahu, who's hiding in Miami, he should come and arrest the flotilla workers.
Yes.
To protect themselves, to insulate themselves, they've sent out these other people's young kids.
Yes.
It's the exploitation is true everywhere,
Yes. They're a victim of the same system that exploits, oppresses, and destroys nature. In the end, I really believe, Aman, that these people, they as long as we have the capacity to change this society, any colonial regime can be dismantled. The colonial view, the colonial ideology can be dismantled. Just like apartheid in South Africa. People thought it would be impossible, not only for apartheid to be defeated, but also for apartheid to be dismantled as a conception.
Reversed, yeah.
So when I was talking to these prison guards, and they were interviewing me and interrogating me at the last time at the tip of at the tip of a shotgun.
Yeah.
And I was saying to them, you really don't think that you will benefit more not being hated by the entire world than living in a society where people have equal rights? And that doesn't matter your religion, your ethnic group. You really think that it's best to live like this? The whole world thinks you're genocidal, baby killers, racists, and you're being isolated from the entire world, and you're being people feel disgusted by your ideology.
You cannot go on a holiday wherever the Israelis go. People find them and then they make videos of them and they harass them because they're disgusted by them.
Yes, but the thing is that they say we cannot go this way because they will never accept. They will never be safe. So the biggest tool that the Zionist regime has over their own citizens is fear. Fear that they will be annihilated by a violent Palestinian people, of a violent Islamic religion, of a violent Arabic ethnic group. So those are all lies.
But Jews have survived outside of Europe, in the Middle East, in the Muslim world, in Turkey, in Arabia, in Africa, because they were kicked out of Europe for thousands of years.
Of course. But Zionism makes this distortion.
Yeah. Thiago's a very kind man. I can testify to this because he didn't eat any meat in Pakistan. He's kind to the Israelis as well.
I'm loving the tangerines.
Yeah, no,
The
thanks.
mandarins.
Are they? Brazil is a big citrus producer.
It is.
It is. Yeah, we're not in full season right now, so they're not as sweet. But if you had come later, they would have been sweeter. What about the pomegranate? That comes from Afghanistan, which we're very mad at right now. But did you try the pomegranate?
Everything good.
All right, thank you.
I really love it.
Thiago approves of the fruit in Pakistan because that's mostly what he eats. But Thiago is very tired, so we can't continue this conversation. We have to go get some food, and then we have to put you to rest. And on top of that, we have to find vegetarian food in Pakistan. So Thiago, thank you so much for your time, brother. May Allah make you successful in your missions, and may everybody from Pakistan be able to pitch in and join in your mission to help liberate the siege in Gaza as civilians, as peaceful activists. Thank you so much, and all the work that you guys do. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Aman. In the end, I really believe that is everybody together that will promote change. I'm very happy to be part of this discussion with you. And I know that the Pakistani people will be able to answer to this historical calling and to make change.
Inshallah, there's a lot of us. Hopefully you can find a couple of hundred.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Thiago.
Thank you, my brother.